In this section, we will see how to assemble the Raspberry Pis and the custom PCB into a cluster. We will use a cluster case from the Pi Hut, which can hold up to 8 Raspberry Pis and has a built-in fan for cooling. We will also use a custom PCB that connects all the Raspberry Pis to a power supply and a network switch. The first step is to prepare the cluster case and the fans. You need to screw the fans to the back of the case, and decide which slots to use for each Raspberry Pi. Make sure you leave some space for the router and the switch inside the box. The next step is to install Ubuntu 20.04 on each Raspberry Pi. You need to download the Ubuntu 20.04 ARM64 image from the official website and flash it to a microSD card using a tool like Etcher. Then insert the microSD card into each Raspberry Pi and boot them up. The third step is to connect the Raspberry Pis to the custom PCB. The custom PCB has 8 sets of pins that correspond to each Raspberry Pi. You need to connect each set of pins to the GPIO header of each Raspberry Pi using jumper wires. Make sure you follow the correct wiring diagram and polarity. The fourth step is to connect the custom PCB to the power supply and the network switch. The custom PCB has a power input connector that you need to plug into a 12V power supply. It also has an Ethernet port that you need to connect to a network switch using a Cat5/6 cable. The network switch will provide network connectivity to all the Raspberry Pis. The final step is to secure the cluster case and test the cluster. You need to close the lid of the case and screw it tight. Then plug in the power supply and turn on the switch. You should see all the Raspberry Pis boot up and get an IP address from the router. You can then SSH into each Raspberry Pi using its IP address or hostname. Congratulations! You have successfully assembled your Kubernetes cluster with 8 Raspberry Pis and a custom PCB.